One of the things we also do, there's been an interesting development, if you like, in gas and liquid hydrocarbon processing. I will say, again, thank you for these polls because we're keeping these results and it's going to help us figure out our webinar approach as we go forward. So people often use a chemical called triazine to remove H2S from either gas phase or liquid phase samples. And it's become a common method of removing H2S. And when the reaction occurs, it makes a chemical called dithiazine. And there really wasn't, originally at least, no one thought there was going to be a lot of issues with dithiazine in terms of how it would impact pipelines or other processing vessels. But as we started to use it more and more, we started to realize that this dithiazine has some unique phase behavior, and it's been seen to do things like block regulators at natural gas compressors, or when people are trying to take the methanol out of LPG, Y-grade, if they've got a deoxygenation plant, they'll find that as they try to take the methanol out, the methanol let the dithiazine stay in solution, and all of a sudden they precipitate these materials out on their trays. So it's become important to try to find a way to measure this dithiazine. The difficulty is it's often there in parts per billion type levels. And so we need some very sensitive technologies to detect it, especially in the gas phase. So Insight has developed a methodology in conjunction with Alberta Sulfur Research to use a trap type method. So on this panel, we can basically put this panel out in the field. It has a column over here that's a trap. It absorbs dithiazine over a period of time as natural gas is allowed to flow through it. Integrate the total flow rate on an integrating flow meter. Take the trap out, send it to the lab, and we do a lab analysis and say, this is how much dithiazine you absorbed when you allowed so many liters of natural gas to flow through the panel. And that lets us determine the dithiazine concentration. So we've got these now installed over a number of parts of the natural gas transmission grid, just looking for places where the dithiazine concentration is high, because those are places where we can potentially shut down compressor stations. The other thing people want to know is, they say, well, I know I've got this particulate at my compressor station or at a filter, but is it dithiazine? And so if you ever watch the TV shows, you know, where the crime shows where the police have these liquid vessels and they put a sample and they go, oh, that's cocaine or that's this drug. We came up with a chemical that we can use as a similar sort of reaction. We start out with this perfectly clear fluid, as you see on the, I guess that's on your right as you look at the screen. And if there's no dithiazine there, it's perfectly clear and a light kind of crystally blue. And as we add even smaller amounts of that, this is 0.5 microgram of dithiazine, the solution becomes cloudier and it actually starts to try to turn to a yellowish green. And as we add more and more dithiazine to it, it changes color. So if we have a sample of material that's plugging a filter, we can take a sample of that material, drop it into one of these solutions, shake it up and go, oh, okay, we've got a dithiazine issue, rather than just I've got some dirt or other contamination in my pipeline. Very sensitive and very specific to dithiazine.